And okay, class has officially started. So yes, welcome everybody back to CS40 here. There were a handful of things that I asked you to do for our class today. So again, I'm on my the class webpage right here. Here is the topic 0 HTML, and there was some pre-lecture tasks here of installing VS Code or VS Codium, the most important one here, to be able to do the coding tasks, follow along in class today. But then also Firefox and uBlock Origin here for blocking ads. Another sort of plug for uBlock Origin here is that I know a lot of people who work at companies whose sole purpose is to, or their sole revenue is selling you all ads. People who work at companies like Google and Facebook and used to be Twitter, now X, and 100% of those people use ad blocking software. Nobody, all these people who are developing ads to show to you all, they are all refusing to view those ads themselves. And so you should not be sad or feel bad about blocking those ads. And again, uBlock Origin here is far and away the best ad blocker that there is. And one of the reasons that we're using Firefox, or that I personally use Firefox for everything, is because it has a bunch of additional ad blocking features that companies like Google don't want to add into Chrome because that would reduce their ad revenue. And Firefox has no similar constraints, moral hazards, and so they make it easy to write nice plugins like this, uBlock Origin, that will block ads for you. Anybody have any questions or comments about any of those programs, installing them? Okay. How are people feeling about HTML? Like we talked about. So yeah, last class we started talking about the HTML stuff. Is this feeling like people feel like mostly tracking? Hard, different, easy, familiar? A couple head shakes, head nods. A lot of people zoned out. It's cool. Let's see more. So we'll have our lab session on Friday. The lab is going to be, it's already posted down here, so you can take a look at some of the things if you wanted to get started. There's no need to get started. My guess is that you all will be able to finish all of the lab material during class on Friday. But again, if for whatever reason you can't finish during class, then the labs aren't due on Friday. They're due on Sunday evening. And so you can submit to Sakai anytime over the weekend, and that is fine to do. So no need to get started on the lab part, this instruction section down here. But I do recommend there's these pre-lab instructions again, and going through these pre-lab instructions. Handful of videos down here. Don't feel obligated to watch all of them, but they do provide a useful background to the class material and things that I won't necessarily cover in class. Definitely won't be on like explicitly graded on a quiz or lab or something, but we'll make I don't know, fill in a lot of gaps about what's going on. Let's see. So a couple of the pre-lab tests for today. One of them was installing a bunch of stuff down here. The other one was creating this GitHub account. So if you haven't done that yet, you will definitely need that for tomorrow's lab. And again, everything we're going to be doing in this course, all the material I'm giving you is all going to be through GitHub, because this is like real software that people at Facebook, at Microsoft, at Google use on a day-to-day basis. And I want you to get familiar with this real software. And so one of the ways that that's going to happen is I'm not going to ever email you all about announcements for the class. Instead, I will be posting them here to the issues on this GitHub repository. Again, this web page is called a repository. A repository is like a synonym for a project in GitHub terminology. You all tomorrow in lab, we'll be creating your first repository. And for our class repository, this is going to be where I'm going to be posting all of our announcements by creating this new issue button, this green button right here. I'll click that to create an announcement. And I've already done one of those. I did that after our last class session. There's this lecture recordings right here. And so again, all of our lectures will be recorded on Zoom. If for whatever reason you can't attend in person but still want to attend virtually, you can click this link right here to attend virtually, or you can just watch them asynchronously on this YouTube link. My recommendation, very strong recommendation, is that you do what's called watching this repository. So after you create your account, you can see there's this button right here that says, it's currently saying unwatch for me because I've already pressed it and I'm watching this repository. But if you're watching a GitHub repository, then anytime a new issue is posted, you'll get an email about that issue. And so that's the best way to stay up to date on material in this class. If I have an announcement, I'm going to post it here on GitHub. I won't email you all directly. And so if you're watching this repository, you will get emails about those announcements. And if you're not watching this repository, you won't get those emails. That's it for administrative stuff today. Anybody have any questions about any of that administrative stuff? Okay, everybody just wants to get right into technical stuff, building web pages. Like, who cares about administrative stuff? Yeah, Lindsay, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
So if we watch, then we'll get emails you said about everything?
Exactly.
And then if we want to reach you, should we email you?
Oh, yeah, so there's a great question about what to do if you have questions. If it's a question about like grades, something that's specific to you, then an email is appropriate. But if it's a more general question about like, I'm not sure what to do for this assignment, or I tried doing this thing and I got these errors, what should I do? Then an issue would be better. Anybody can create issues on any GitHub repository. And so you can create the issue, ask the question here, I'll answer it here, and then everybody will have access to that question and answer. Yeah, so great question. The question again is that if you have a question to ask me, you can create your own issue by pressing this new issue button and adding it to the repository here. Any other questions anybody has? Okay. So last time I gave you all a bunch of handouts, these PDF files or printed files that look something like this. We started going over a little bit of these. We'll go over more of this material today, and that'll prepare you for all of the stuff in lab for tomorrow. Last time as well, we started creating a HTML web page. I'm going to create a new one from scratch, though, on a more, I don't know, maybe not more interesting topic's not the right word, but a different topic that's not just people in the class. If you're the right way or the best way to think about these GitHub projects is to, when you do this file, don't do the open file over here, do open folder. And this will, this left-hand bar over here, open up the folder that contains a bunch of stuff inside of it. I'm going to go ahead right now and create a new folder for the stuff that we'll be doing in this class. Most of the stuff in VS Code that will come up on my screen will be the same on your all screen as it will be on my screen. This like file selection menu, though, this will be different, and it'll be different depending on you're on Mac or Windows, that this is something that's related to your operating system and not just directly inside of VS Code. So this part will be a little bit different for you all, but the VS Codes, everything else besides this, creating a folder will be the same. I'm going to call this folder CSCI 0C040-in class. Sorry that font's a little bit small. But after I create that folder, then I'll have an empty, well, let's see. So it's popping up this about whether I trust the authors or don't trust the authors. It doesn't matter which button you press. Trusting the authors means that VS Code might automatically run some programs for you. It's not going to be relevant for our class, so I always press I don't trust the authors because I don't like my computer doing things without my explicit permission. So I always say I don't trust it. And after you load up a folder, you'll get something like this. On the left-hand side is going to be the contents of the folder that we've opened, which currently has nothing inside of it. But I can press something like this new file button right here to create a new file. And I call my new file index.html like this and hit enter, create file. And it's created this empty HTML file for us. Again, one of the best ways to participate in lecture and take notes is to follow along with what I'm doing here, trying to reproduce as much as you can on your own computers. And really what we're going to be doing in class here today and next week, at least Monday next week, is working on your first project that's going to be due in this class. So by following along with what we're doing in class, you will have a head start on the project. You won't have to do it on your own. We're going to start doing a lot of the stuff in class here, and you can see how I think about doing these sorts of programming tasks. Any questions so far about where we are, what I've done?
So you're just typing in index.html.
Yeah. So I just typed in index.html. If you go file, new file, and then it'll pop up something like this. You can name it whatever you want. I named it index.html, and so it came up like this. Yeah, this little blue bar at the top is not important, so I'm going to close that. And then let's do every time I start a new file, it's good to have just do a basic sanity check that I know how to open this file and see the results. So again, I'm just going to type a basic hello world message right here. Control S will save it. You see that if I don't save things, there's this little white dot here in the name of this file right here. That means the contents of this file are not saved, and I won't be able to view them in Firefox. But after I press Control S, that white dot becomes an X, and so the contents are saved. Control S, save it. Or you can do File and Save like this. But unlike something like Google Docs, you actually have to manually save this every time you want to save it. So after I save this, I can right-click here on this index.html, and then this button right here says Copy Path. That's the one that I want, Copy Path right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and put it inside of Firefox so that we can actually view this web page. So again, I right-clicked on index.html, going to Copy Path, and then I'm switching over to Firefox, creating a new tab right here, pasting, so Control V right here, pasting that path into the Firefox URL tab right there, and it says Hello World right there. On Firefox and every other web browser, if you press the Control, Shift, and plus buttons at the same time, it will zoom in for you. This little percentage sign over here is how much you're zoomed in. So I'm zoomed in 500% right now. Control, Shift, minus zooms out. So plus zoom in, minus zoom out. So you don't have to do that, but I'm doing that just to make things a little bit easier for you all to see here. This process of being able to copy path and then going over to Firefox, something that you'll be doing all the time to check your work, whether your code is working or not. So definitely important thing to be able to do. Any questions so far? Okay. I'm going to switch over to look at some of these cheat sheets again. And so as a reminder, so there are these 3 cheat sheets that we'll be using as references in the lecture here. And there'll also be something that you can use on quizzes in class. On Monday next week, we'll talk about your first quiz that we'll have on Thursday of next week as well. And for those quizzes, you're allowed to have these cheat sheets out in front of you to work with them. So it's good to have them out now just to be familiar with them so that you know I don't know, where the appropriate information is during the quiz so that you're, I don't know, able to find it easily. And this HTML cheat sheet right here is the one that I want us to start with. Last time we talked about section 1 a little bit here. We'll go to that, review it in a second, but I want us to start right now with section 2 right here, the basic markup of every HTML page. And so last web page we were creating didn't have all of these parts inside of it, but it's standard, like whenever you're starting a brand new HTML page from scratch, to have all of these parts inside of it. And so I'm going to go over to my index.html page and add all of these parts to it. The first thing is, so first I'm going to delete this hello world, this bang doc type like this, doc type HTML. You notice that VS Code has a lot of little pop-ups that are going to be coming up at different times as you're typing. And if you click on those buttons, they will autocomplete for you, typing in what VS Code thinks that you are most likely trying to type in. And in this case, because our file is an HTML file, VS Code and HTML files customarily start with this doc type HTML line. VS Code knows that that's what you're trying to type in. There are other things that you could put here, but it's not really important for us that exactly what goes here or what the options are. They don't really affect anything. So the important part for us for now is just that every HTML file starts with something like this. And then it has an HTML tag. I noticed that as I was typing this in, VS Code automatically suggested that maybe I might want to be putting in HTML right here as the tag. And then as soon as I press the right-hand arrow sign, that greater than sign, the closing of this tag, then VS Code automatically adds the closing tag over here for me as well. So trying to save me a little bit of typing there. And it's customary for every HTML web page to have this HTML and /HTML tag inside of it. Inside of that, there is a header section, which will contain sort of information about our web page. And then there is a body section like this, which will contain the actual web page itself. And so inside of this body section is where I could put this hello world like this. A little terminology again. So we talked about these are called tags in HTML. Anything inside of these angle brackets is called a tag. So this is the HTML tag right here. This is the head tag right here. And this is the body tag right here. The head and the body tag are inside of the HTML tag because they are between the opening tag. An opening tag just contains HTML, and a closing tag has a slash in front of the name of the tag, a slash in front of HTML. So this is the opening HTML tag, and this is the closing HTML tag. And then the contents of our actual web page go inside of the body tag, body/body right here, and hello world here. I'll press, you'll notice that I've not saved this document because there's the white circle at the top of the screen. But I will now save this document, Control-S to save it, and come back over to Firefox, refresh this web page, and we now get the new version of this web page. I guess I typed in hello world lowercase the first time. Now I changed it to capitals, hello and world. So it changed it a little bit, but it didn't like really change it. It didn't add any formatting or really anything useful. So this HTML and this body and this head tag, they don't really change the formatting of your web page in any way, but they're just customary to have this sort of structure. Any questions so far?
What's the first line do?
Question is, what does this first line do, this doc type HTML right here? And the answer is that it turns out that the very first version of HTML was invented in the late 1980s. And since then, there's been about a dozen different versions of HTML that have different tags that you're allowed to use inside of them. Technically, what this is saying is that we're going to be using the most recent HTML standard in this web page, which has the largest majority of tags inside of it. And so there are other things that we could put here that would make us use an older standard of HTML. in practice, it won't actually change anything. No matter what you do for your first line, or if you take this away, it won't actually change the way the web browser does things. So it's just sort of like a thing that you will see a lot. This line is a thing that you will see a lot in documentation. It is, for example, right here in the basic markup of every HTML page. But it doesn't really have a meaning. It doesn't really do anything. These HTML tags that start with this like exclamation point like this, they're sort of special tags that basically just don't do anything. They're useful for programmers, but they don't actually do anything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and what is the HTML do? Like, it probably says here, like, making an HTML file, but isn't the whole thing an HTML file?
Yeah, so this whole thing is an HTML file, it's just customary to have these parts inside of your HTML file. So yeah, like, you don't need the HTML tag, you don't need the doc type, you don't need the body tag. We saw before that, like, if you just type hello world by itself, everything works. It's just everybody does this because it's customary to do it. And so you'll see everybody else do it when you're looking at their web pages. And so it's good for you to do it as well. Yes?
Mine is not suggesting like the closing statement, and it's also not in colors. I don't know if that's.
That's a good question. So if you're not in color, or it's not suggesting any options to you, like, so if you start typing stuff and this little bar doesn't here, what that means is that VS Code does not know what type of document that you're looking at. The most likely cause of that is the name of your document doesn't end in .html. The way VS Code knows what type of programming language that you're looking at is it's called the extension of the file right here. Everything after the dot is called the file extension. And so if it has a .html file extension, VS Code will know that it's HTML. Even if that's not, for whatever reason, not working, if you still do the right click and copy path, it'll should still display correctly in Firefox. And then tomorrow in lab, there'll be time that I can make sure, I don't know if there's something weird going on people's computers, get those issues figured out one-on-one. But the most likely cause, again, if things are not in color, or VS Code is not suggesting things, that means that VS Code doesn't know that you're in an HTML document, which is probably because the file name doesn't have the .html at the end. Okay, a couple other parts here. So we talked about, this is the name of the HTML right here, is the name of the tag. This is, every tag accepts certain attributes. This is the attribute right here of lang, what language it's written in, and the value is English. So here, lang equals English, like this. If you were writing a web page in Spanish, we would do ZES like this. If you were doing it in Chinese, it would be ZH like this. Doesn't matter what language you're writing your web page in, though. The tag names and the attributes are always the same. They are always these based off of English words here, and it's only the content down here that whose language would change. In practice, this doesn't affect anything for humans. What this affects is like Google. In Google, if you go to like google.mx instead of google.com, google.mx is Google for Mexico, and Google for Mexico will prefer showing Spanish web pages instead of English web pages. So this is something to add to make Google like your web page, make it easier for people to find. But again, it's not going to affect the layout of the page. Coming back here, the title tag, this is something that is going to affect your web page a little bit. And so let's talk about that. Let's come over here. Title goes inside of head, and it must be inside of head. Again, head is a header section, which talks about, which describes things about your web page rather than the content of the web page. The content goes in body, and if it's just information about your web page, it goes in the header. And the title is something that is about our web page. So I'll call the title here our first web page, like this. And I'll save this, Control S. Coming back over to Firefox, if I refresh this button right here, you'll see that our first web page does not appear anywhere on the window inside of Firefox. Instead, it appears on what's called the title bar of your operating system. For me, the title bar is this small green text up here where it says our first web page. But for you all, it's probably like a blue bar on Windows at the top or a gray bar for Mac that will say our first web page inside of that bar above the window down here. So this is something that sort of the right way to think about it, again, is that it's about our web page, describing something about our web page, but it's not something that's going to be displayed directly inside of our web page. And this covers everything in this basic markup of every HTML web page right here. Oh yeah, let's see. So this code formatting, again, HTML is white space insensitive. We don't care about white space. So you notice that I have all of this white space here. It doesn't matter how I format this. If I did it like this, HTML doesn't care. If I had a whole bunch of spaces in between hello and world like this, HTML doesn't care. We get the same exact results over here. And so it doesn't matter how you format your web page, but it's customary that every time you have an opening tag, you indent your web page, or you indent the HTML like this. And every time you have a closing tag, it goes back, dedents it. So this is a nice way to make it easier for people to read your HTML, but the computer itself doesn't actually care.
Does it only read one space? Or what does it do hello space world? And you do two spaces, it doesn't care.
Yeah, and so if you have unlimited other spaces, it doesn't care. So it'll only ever put like one space or zero spaces between words. It'll always shrink down. If you have more than one space, it'll always shrink that down into just exactly one space. Yeah, so if there is, like, let's say, okay, this is super annoying to me. Like, I really wanted a whole lot of spaces between hello and world. How do I do that in HTML? We have to do something called escaping the spaces. In HTML, the way that works is you press and in BSP semicolon. So this is a not at all obvious thing to do for how to add an actual real space inside of HTML. But and semicolon like this, these are what are called escape characters in HTML, which means that everything inside of this and in the semicolon do something special, and they're not going to be rendered into Firefox directly. So if I do this, I'm not going to see and in BSP. Instead, what NBSP stands for is non-breaking space, which means actually literally put a space here and don't collapse it into just one space. So I'm going to copy that, paste it a bunch of times like this, save this, and if I come back over here to Firefox and refresh, now we'll see that we do actually have a bunch of spaces between hello and world like this. Yeah, so and in semicolon, or what are technically called escape sequences in HTML, and you can use and in BSP to add these spaces if you would like to. Very rare that you need to do that in practice, but you can do it if you want to. Okay. So your project, your first project in this class, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating a web page. It'll have multiple of these HTML pages inside of it that all have to link together. And so people can click on one and take you to another spot. And so in class here, we're going to do an example of that. And since you all didn't have great examples for me last time of creating a web page, I thought about a good example for us would be fun things to do in Claremont. So just a simple thing, fun things to do in Claremont. And so I'll call the title of this Fun Things in Claremont. And I guess by fun things in Claremont, I mean like sports teams and clubs and like things at the colleges here, like fun things to be a part of. And we said, so before the H1 tag, this is kind of like the title tag because its purpose is to create a title for our web page, but the H1 tag is actually something that's going to get displayed inside of Fun Things in Claremont. It's actually displayed on the screen. And then we talked about before, there's these list operations. So OL stands for ordered list, LI stands for list item. And then inside of here, I can create my list of things to do. And so I know a handful of people here involved in sports and other things. So there's Matthew or Matt? Matthew. So Matthew is swim and dive. Is that right? Swim dive team. And then Mike, I'm guessing was it football? Is that the picture? Yes. Anybody else on any sort of sports or clubbish thing or group? Yeah, maybe I'll call this groups in Claremont College. That sounds better than fun things. Groups in Claremont colleges. Fun groups. Or anybody else have suggestions of things that I could list here besides the swim dive team, football team? Yeah.
Like going on hikes.
Okay, going on hikes. Okay. Let's do one more. We need four.
Sailing club.
There's a sailing club. Oh, cool. Are you also on the sailing club?
I was
Okay.
crash.
So there's no more sailing club anymore. The boat sank.
Yeah. No, it actually did. There's a 50-foot sailboat that sank off of Long Beach.
Oh, bummer.
They need rescue.
Well, I guess I was talking earlier about things that I did in the Navy. One of the things is that we had 110-foot minesweeper boats that were like actual proper boats that ships that look like Navy ships if you were to see them. We also had 44-foot sailboats that we did, and we sailed around a lot with those. So I find sailing fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and come back over here, refresh. And so this is what our current web page looks like. Actually, talking about hiking too, fun things. I also find hiking fun. My third date with my wife was hiking up Mount Baldy over here. And that was for me, I knew that after we did that together, it was a long all-day thing that I wanted to marry her. Took her like another year and a half before she realized she wanted to marry me as well. So I like hiking as well, going a lot of hikes. Okay. Any questions about what we've done here with the HTML? What's going on? Yeah, let's see.
Is there a way, I know in like SQL, you can like dash and like type out.
Yeah, that's a great question.
A way to do that.
So there's a question about how do you make what are called comments in HTML? And comments in HTML are great. I'll do one up here with this syntax. You have the opening brace like this, and then the exclamation point after that opening brace. Again, anytime you have an exclamation point, you should think that like this is something that's not really important to the HTML somehow. So this up here, the doc type, not really important. Not going to affect how things are displayed. Similarly down here, this exclamation point is not going to affect how things are displayed. And then it's this dash dash, kind of like in SQL to make a comment. And anything you type here, anything you type here won't be displayed. And so this is a good place to put notes about things that we've talked about maybe. Again, the formatting doesn't matter. How you organize things in white space, it won't matter. Anything between these two sections right here won't get displayed. And so one thing that we did talk about that is not in the HTML anymore is this. And in BSP, this creates a space that won't be squashed together with other spaces. Good question. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is another great tool for in class as you're taking notes, following along with things, is that make yourself comments in your webpage here about things that you want to remember, go back to in the future. Okay. Any other questions so far? Let's see. So our web page over here, let's go ahead and refresh it again since we've made some changes. We can see that that comment hasn't actually changed anything. But our web page here looks pretty ugly. Like, I don't know, it's black on white, and there's this huge thing at the top. This list right down here is not super exciting. So we're going to talk next about how to make these web pages actually look nice. And we'll start that discussion today, see some of the intuition today. And Monday is when we'll talk about it really formally, go over what exactly you need for your quiz. And your quiz is going to be how this like beautification process works. And this beautification is done in HTML using what's called CSS. It stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And so that's, we're going to go over this cheat sheet right here next. And this cheat sheet, again, will be useful in your project, just to reference how to actually make things look nice. And it will be useful on your quiz, because your quiz will be covering this CSS stuff. So today in class, rest of class today, we're going to talk about the intuition behind it. And Monday, we'll talk about exactly what your quiz will look like. So first thing that we'll start with is this 3 places to write CSS, and under section 2A here, this inline styles. So element style equals property : value. Again, the element right here is the name of a tag. It doesn't have to be exactly the word element. It can be whatever we want. But style right here is the attribute. The style must exactly say this word style. And then inside of here, inside of these quotation marks, this is called the property of the style, or sometimes we just call this the style. So coming back to my HTML here, let's say I want to make this list item right here, I don't know, a little bit fancier. I'll say style right here, and you can see that as I'm starting to type it out, VS Code has added that for me, style equals, and then in quotation marks right here is where I put whatever I want my style to be. And there's a lot of choices that we have right here inside of this section 4 right here, common CSS properties. These are the most common choices that we have. We'll start right here with the color one, which will change the color of the text. And so I can say color, and then this is a colon right here, not a semicolon, but a colon. And then different color options. Basically, any name of a color that you might think of is something that is valid here. So we'll just start with something simple like red. And if I save that and come over to the, I'll come over to Firefox in a second to see that, refresh this, and now you can see that the color of all of this has changed to red. And if I could repeat the same, style equals color colon red like this. And for other tags right here, style equals color colon red. And we'll do it one more time. Style equals color colon red like this. And this will change all 4 of these pieces of text right here to have a red coloring. Coming back over here to Firefox, refresh that, and everything now is in red. Any questions about what I just did? Okay. So one of the fun things about HTML, the things that I guess it really first got me excited about computers and making web pages. For me, it was I got my first internet connection back in the 90s, and I was starting to make web pages for Age of Empires, the video game then. And just being able to like fiddle around with these colors and change them is the first thing that really got me excited about computers and computer programming. And so, yeah, definitely recommend as you're working on your project, spending a lot of time. You don't have to do this, but it's fun to do this, just fiddling around with these different options and seeing how that affects your web page to get an aesthetic vibe that you like. One thing that you'll notice, though, is that it's a little bit obnoxious right now that this color is listed in 4 different places. And so I just changed from red to green. And if I want to change everything from red to green, I have to do that in 4 different places. And it's really easy to, well, I guess, first of all, it's just annoying to have to do it more than once, but it also will end up being really easy to forget to do it in some spots if these list items are not right next to each other. And the vast majority of the things that we're going to be doing in this class, again, are about how to automate these like boring tasks of changing all of these colors at once. And so CSS and HTML has a nice built-in way for us to do that. And that's by up here at the top, including a style tag like this. And under this style tag, I can say LI. And then this is called a curly brace right here. LI, curly brace, and then the particular style that I want down here, color, green, semicolon like this. And now I can delete all of these list items. And this will automatically change the color of all of these list items to me for green. And so now I'll only have to change that color in one place up here, and it will modify everything for me. So I'll change this to blue, save that, come over to Firefox, refresh this, and now everything's in blue. And now if I want to try out different colors, say violet, save that, come over here to Firefox, refresh. I only have to make one change instead of 4 separate changes to do that. So we've started off here a little bit automating this little boring task right here. And we're going to see lots more ways of automating other boring tasks here throughout this class. Any questions so far about this style tag up here, what it's doing, or how to format it? People are good. Okay. Let's see. We're going to do 2 things for the rest of today. The first thing that we're going to do is play around with some more formatting options. And this is going to appeal to the more artsy side of you all. I don't know. It'll be a relatively easy thing and a thing that is not the sort of thing that you'll be graded on the quiz. The next sort of thing will be, we will play around with what this is called. It's called a CSS selector. And this is will be a very complicated thing. And this will be the first like hard technical thing that we've seen in the class, how these CSS selectors work. And so if you're feeling like things are getting, I don't know, we're going slow, things are boring, then we'll get to the first real hard technical stuff right here in just a few minutes. But before doing that, we'll play around with a little bit of these formatting stuff here for a little bit. Okay, so color violet. Well, let's see. Yeah, actually, I don't know. My vibe from you all is that you all seem like you're ready to move on to the technical part right here. So we're gonna dive right into that. And the first interesting thing, so again, this right here is called a CSS selector. And the first interesting thing we're going to see with this CSS selector is what's called a pseudo tag. So this right here is called a tag. And then this, we're going to add :hover to the right of this tag. And we'll see what this is gonna do. I'm gonna add it. So again, the only change that I made was added :hover right here to this tag. I'll save this, come back over to my HTML right here, refresh this, and now you see that everything is black once again. But as soon as my mouse hovers over the top of one of these list items, now the item has become the violet color. And so we get some sort of responsive, the web page is responding to my mouse, and it makes like this kind of look like a button. We can make it look a little bit more like a button by adding, instead of changing the foreground color, maybe changing the background color. I'll do background color like that, and we'll make the background color be not violet. And we'll save this. If I were just, go ahead and save this, run it real quick, refresh that. Since both the foreground and the background colors are violet, we can't read it at all. So I'll change this by doing a comment here in CSS. This /* and */ are comments in CSS. And so now this will no longer be applied. You can see it's in the sort of dark green color, the same as this color down here, because it's a comment, won't be applied anymore, and only the background color will change to violet here. Come over here, refresh this, and now the background color over here is changing to violet. If I wanted to make this so that the H1 tag also had this sort of button behavior, then what I do is over here add H1, and we'll just jump straight to hover like this, and we'll do the background dash color of red for the header for now. So the background color of the H1 is red, background color of LI will be violet, and they're both inside of this hover tag like that. Save this, come over here, refresh this, and now we get red up there and violet down here. This is called a CSS selector because it selects certain HTML tags down here. So this selects the LI tag when it has a hover on it, and this selects the H1 tag when it has a hover on it. I can add more tags down here. So again, like the P tag, very useful to create paragraphs. This is, I'll say something sort of meaningful. Claremont has lots of fun activities and clubs and teams, period. Save that. Maybe I'll add more. You can see some examples in the list above, period. Save that. Come over here, refresh this, and now down here we have, this has no hover behavior, but these ones up here do have that hover behavior. When my mouse goes over it, it's going to change the background there. Any questions so far?
What's the P for again?
Question is, what is the P for? The answer is P stands for paragraph. So anytime you want to make a paragraph of text, you use the P tag. And so we could have another paragraph down here of like, I don't know, one of the reasons I came to Claremont for college is the fun stuff. And that'll show up as a separate paragraph down here. And maybe I'll zoom out with Control- a little bit so it's just all appearing on one screen for us still. And these ones not hovering down here, these ones up here, yes, hovering. Okay, so how these CSS selectors work at first is, I don't know, the simple examples are simple. The complicated examples are going to be complex and start really having to get you into this, I don't know, thinking like a programmer, evaluating certain algorithms to see and predict and measure what exactly is going to happen. In our cheat sheet over here, what we're going to be talking about is this selectors and this syntax, part 3 right here, selectors and this syntax. So first of all, this basic selectors. We have element name like this with no special characters in front of it. You can see that a lot of these have special characters inside of them. and this one right here does not have special characters. So element name by itself is the selector when we have something that is just like li by itself. This is the element name by itself, and this matches all of these li's. And since it's all by itself, it will always apply to all of those list items and nothing else. The next, oops, what did I press? Cancel. The next on this cheat sheet over here is the dot class name. So let's talk about what dot class name is going to do. Eventually what we're going to do is we're going to convert all these list items into buttons. There'll be like a little menu bar for us. And so I want all of my buttons to have a certain similar behavior that is going to be different from a generic list. And so maybe down here I'll have another list of something like, we'll have a P here, some colleges in Claremont include list item, not list item, ordered list. List item, CMC, list item, Pitzer, list item, Scripps, list item, Honona, list item, HMC, like this. So now we have two different lists in our HTML file. Our HTML file is growing longer and longer. It no longer fits on one page over here. And this top list we're going to make into a menu for our web page again somehow. And this bottom list, we want it to just stay as a normal list, not looking like a menu. But when I come over to the web page over here and refresh this web page, now I have this li is affecting both of these two lists down here. And if I change it again, I took away the hover a minute ago. If I change it to add the hover back in, li : hover, save that, come back over here, then both of them have this sort of like button-y looking effect where it's highlighting the list. And I want that to happen only on this top set of lists and not on this bottom set of lists. So how I can do that is with this class syntax. So over here on the selectors in the syntax, this second menu right here, dot class name, this is what we're going to take a look at next, dot class name. And down here on list item, I can say class equals button, and I'll copy and paste this to all of these list items right here. Save that. And notice that I have it on this top set of list items, but not on this bottom set of list items. And in order to make this selector right here apply only to things that have a class of button, what I do is say .button, .button. .button : hover will now have that effect. So all of these list items right here will have that effect. But these list items down here will not have that effect. So save this, come back over to Firefox, refresh. You can see that when I hover over these up here, it still highlights in pink, and down here, no highlighting is happening. So that is this dot class name. What it does as a CSS selector is it lets you select only those list items or other tags that have that specified class as whatever it's supposed to be. Any questions so far?
Oh, the applicant.
Yeah. So this .button class, as it's written, I can use it to match, or if I wanted to, I could say make this P tag right here a button. Class equals button like this. I probably don't want to, but maybe I would want to. Class equals button. Actually, maybe a better example is this H1 up here. Sometimes the title of a web page is a button. And if I do that, then my H1 tag and all of my list item tags down here will be buttons. And I'm going to go ahead and comment out this for a second. Come back over here, refresh. And now my H1 tag up here is a button, and my list item tags down here are also buttons. If I really wanted to have a different formatting for the H1 button and the L buttons, though, I can add li dot button, and this is a the li has no dot in front of it, so this will match the name of the tag. The button has a dot in front of it, so this will match the name of the class. And so this is li dot button will match this tag right here. Oops, sorry. But this one right here, this tag is an H1 tag, so it will not match the li dot button selector. This selector right here will not match H1, it will match li. Save that, come over here, refresh, and so now this is not being highlighted, but these ones still are being highlighted. So yeah, again, this is the this element right here, element name, dot class name right here is for doing only the classes. And you can combine these together to get restricted to a particular element and a particular class. Any questions so far? Okay. The format of what your quiz is going to be, we'll again talk about the format in detail on next Monday, but I will be giving you a web page and a set of these selectors, and you'll have to be able to tell me exactly which of these tags are going to be selected by those selectors. And so understanding this CSS will be important for you just to be able to build reasonable web pages, but also important for you to actually complete the quiz and get the credit for the quiz. Let's see, so the next syntax right here, this hashtag ID name. This is very similar to the class name syntax, but it's just a little bit different. Here under this list item, if I say ID equals first button, and without a space, I'll just call it first like this. Then in order to add special formatting just to this list item right here, I use a hashtag and it'll match the ID. The dot matches a class, the hashtag matches an ID. So here if I do li dot button colon hover, we'll get this background color. But if I did li hashtag first, like this, then it'll only match this tag right here, ID equals first. Save that, come back over here, refresh, and now it's matching this right here, but none of these three down here. Add back the dot button like this, and now it's matching the class over here. Refresh, and now it matches everything. Technically, they're internally inside of HTML and CSS, there's no difference between an ID and a class, other than the syntactic difference of using a dot versus a hashtag. But it's traditional that you should only have one ID of something. So if I have an ID equals first on this, then it's traditional not to have ID equals first down here. This is bad, having two IDs equals first, that's considered bad. But it's okay to have more than one of a class. Anybody have questions about anything so far? Let's see. So the next most useful, simplest of these selectors is this selector right here. And it's what's called a combinator selector, where we're combining multiple selectors together. And this is, again, like, to me, really obnoxious to have to type out this class equals button 4 separate times when I could maybe just say right here, class equals button on the ordered list, and not have to deal with all 4 of these down here. If I try this right now, this is not going to work because, first of all, it's an li dot button. So if I save this, come over here, refresh this. Now we're not matching any of these tags right here because my selector right here is looking for list items down here, but our class is on the button. So I could change this to an ordered list dot button like this, save that, and come back over here and refresh this. And now it matches the ordered list, but you notice that the entire ordered list is being highlighted at once. And I don't want the entire ordered list highlighted at once. I want to be able to highlight just individual buttons at a time. So the way to do that is with this parent-descendant combinator right here. So my parent tag is going to be this ordered list, and then my descendant tag is going to be this list item. So ordered list dot button, that right here, this is my parent ordered list dot button. That's going to match this right here. And then ordered list dot button and LI right here with a space between the button and the LI. Now this is my parent tag right here. The ordered list right here is a parent. And then the thing inside of it, all the items inside of it are called children of this parent. And this LI will, or this entire section right here, ol.button space LI will match this LI right here. So we'll save that, come back over here, refresh this, and now once again we're matching these tags, these LI list items individually without having to manually write in this class equals button for all of these list items down here. And so again, this syntax ol.button, this right here matched the ol class equals button right here. And then we're only looking inside of list items that are inside of this particular type of ordered list right here. And so if I come down to this ordered list down here, we're not going to match anything. We're not going to be highlighting them like we are up here, because down here, our ordered list down here does not have the class equals button. Any questions about these CSS selectors so far? Do you all feel like mostly following along with that? Okay, lots of head nods. That sounds good. Yeah, so we're going to stop with the CSS selectors now for a minute, go back onto the actual make things look pretty, make things functional aspect of things. And on Monday, we will really get into some weeds with these CSS selectors here, covering all of these other elements down here. And you'll be responsible for understanding very complex combinations of these CSS selectors. In practice, this CSS selector is a very, very simple one. Real web pages like the New York Times that we looked at the other day is going to have CSS selectors where this whole thing right here is itself multiple lines long. Okay, but so our goal is, we're trying to make a web page where we have some buttons like a menu bar over here where people can click on these and go to different web pages. And so coming down here, let's see, how do we make links to go to different web pages? We saw how to do that before with the A tag. The A, again, stands for anchor. And back in the day, in the 90s, people were originally calling links anchors. And then people realized that sounds stupid, and they are actually links. But the HTML has been stuck with A since the 1990s. And we do A, and then href equals the name of a different web page that we want to visit when we click on a link. And so here we will go to the swim.html page if we click on this link right here, /a, not a /a, like this. And this is going to make the swim dive team right here be a link that'll be something that I can click on, and it will take me to a swim.html page. I'll save this, Control S, come back over here and refresh this web page. And you can see that the formatting changed down here because it's now inside of the link. And so it's blue with the underline. And you can see my mouse. If I'm not over the link, it's like the normal pointer shape. But if I'm over the link right here, I get the nice little clicky finger shape. And if I click that, I'll go to this file not found because we haven't created this swim.html yet. In order to create it, right over here, I just click this little greater than sign to list all of the files that are in my current project. And I can right click here, create a new file. We'll call it swim.html like this. And inside of swim.html, I'll say just the word swim for now. Swim, come back over to Firefox, refresh this. Now when I click on this, it will take me to this web page that contains just the word swim like that. Press back, we're back to this main web page. Click there, come back. So important things are that your the name of your file right here is exactly matches the name of your file that you create over here. Things like spaces in the file name will break your web page, or things like capitalization in the file name will break your web page. If you have it capitalized down here but not over here, that will break. Or if it's capitalized over here but not down here, that will break. Whatever you name your file over here has to be exactly the same as what you name it down here. Any questions so far? Okay. One of the, I don't know, properties of this button system that I have right now that's maybe a little bit annoying is that when I hover over right here, like this looks like it should be part of the button, and because it's changing my background color, it's like giving me the sense that this is something that should be clickable. But when I'm clicking my button, I'm clicking it super hard right here. Nothing's happening. Like, why is it not clicking here? And that's because the way my HTML is structured right now is that my A tag right here is only around this swim dive team right here, and not around the entire list item. It is the list item that is changing color. But the A tag is only around the text of the letters over here. And so if I want this entire thing to be a button that I can click, I need to move my A tag so instead of being around the text like this, that it's around the list item like this. And now, so all I did was move the A tag so that it's not around swim dive team, but around the list item itself. Now when I save this, come back over here, refresh, and I have a typo. Yeah, so here, I know I find it annoying that VS Code adds these closing tags automatically. So VS Code automatically added this /A for me right here. And so my A tags, my anchor is not actually around the list item. It's only around this like empty thing at the beginning. So I need to delete that /A right there so it's around this entire list item tag right here. Save that, come back over here, refresh this, and now you notice that my finger is appearing everywhere over this button, and I can click way over here on the right-hand side, and it will still open it up. So yeah, as you're visiting or as you're working on your web page in the lab in the subsequent project, you'll need to be careful about the ordering of your tags to make sure that you get the exact effect that you want. Things like this A tag, they are going to wrap only around the things that you tell them to wrap around, and it can be counterintuitive how to actually arrange your HTML in order to get the right effect. Any questions about that? Okay, one last thing that we'll do today. We will fill out this swim.html a little bit and see how these two web pages interact a little bit more. So in order to start my swim.html page, again, I'm going to need all this sort of boilerplate code like this doc type, this HTML, this head, and so forth. And so I'm going to just Control-A, Control-C, copy and paste this entire file over here to start with. And then I'm going to change the body of this file so that these paragraphs are now going to be different. Like this. Scroll, here we go. So instead of Claremont has lots of blah, 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 I'll say swim team is fun right here. And we'll have an H2 tag right here that says swim team like that. Save that. And I'm going to come back over to my web page over here, refresh this, and now when I click on the swim dive team, my menu still stays the same over here. Everything's the same except that now the body of the web page says swim team is fun, instead of the generic stuff that it had down here. Click that back, and so forth. What I want to do is, I don't know, this button, let's make this button a little bit nicer to look at right now. That like, I don't know, I want to get rid of the underline, say, on this button. And so up here in this style tag, I need to reformat how this A tag is working. And I'm going to say A like this. And I want to get rid of the underline down here. There's, let's see, text decoration. This is the where the underline is stored. And so if I say text dash decoration colon none like this, then that should get rid of the underline here in this swim.html page. Get rid of that underline. So I'm on my swim.html page right here. I can see that because I'm looking at swim team. And if we refresh that, we can see that we no longer have the underline on swim dive team right here. But if I were to go back to my main class page, the index page right here, this still has an underline. And if I refresh this, it still has the underline. That's because I changed the style only in the swim.html page and not in the main index.html page. And so we have this sort of like duplication of our style elements right here, duplication of style, that we have it inside of the index page right here, one style, and inside of the swim.html, another style. And so if I want to make those styles consistent, I also now have to change whatever changes I made here into this style tag, also into this index tag. And this again is, I don't know, it's not difficult, but it's time consuming and it's easy to make mistakes while doing that. So there we go, I just did it, and now it shows up like this. The last thing we're talking about for CSS today is how to make that easier to do, and that's this part C down here in places to write CSS. We've already covered inline styles and the style element. The last version of this is with this link element right here, where you can specify your style in a outside file, style.css, and include it in your own file. So right over here, I can say link and the rel equals style sheet, rel equals style sheet, and then href equals whatever the name of my style sheet is. Href equals style.css is just a traditional one to use, and save that. Over here, I'll add a new file of style.css, copy the contents of this into style.css right here, save that, get rid of this style tag, and now I can copy and paste this into my swim.html as well. So I'm going a little bit fast, so it might be hard to keep up with everything. But now both of these two HTML files linking to the same place, the same style.css right here, and whatever changes I make right here, say make it italic, will appear everywhere. Come over here, refresh this page. Uh-oh. Well, the underline came back, but it doesn't like the italic there. We'll just stick with the underline for now. So we got rid of the no underline, added the underline, and so now both of my pages have consistent formatting. Yeah. So again, we'll have the lab tomorrow. You'll be on your lab. You'll be creating some very simple web page. The main thing in the lab is getting it published to the internet, where everybody else in the world will be able to look at it. And then next week, we'll continue on more of this style stuff, making this web page look a little bit nicer, and talking about your first quiz in the class. Anybody have any questions about anything?
So the head is just like setting things up, right?
Exactly. So the head section over here, thinking about it as like setup, and the body, the actual like stuff. Yep. Good question. Okay, yeah, if there are any point in class, like, I don't know, random style things that you've seen on web pages that you want to try to implement, feel free to ask me about that and we can talk about how to do it. This first section of the course, very much like, I don't know, directed by what you all are interested in, what you all want to do. And so, yeah. See you all tomorrow in the lab. It's also in the same room here.
Is the project like already on the?
Project lab already posted, so you can take a look at it if you would like to. The project right here, the lab still in this topics 0 HTML folder.